Welcome, Wrestle Buddies, to our weekly rounds up of news and the Wrestle Buddy podcast. I am joined today by my partner in crime, as I said before, the best duo since Arcade Bro, my main man Zane. How we doing, Zane? Oh, looks like he's froze.
I apologize. My internet's really shitty today. I hope I'm getting through. I really
You are.
may set that precedent, but yeah, I am shitty as well. But my internet's being extra shitty today. So I apologize in advance.
No problem, mate. How we
So
doing anyway?
fine. How are
Good?
you, Andy?
Yeah, not too bad. Wasn't a great week in wrestling, was it? You know, it was. I think the last week that we had was quite eventful, and the fallout from. I love Jimmy. Jimmy, I love you.
Yeah.
He's a little shit. Weekend wrestling wasn't the best. It, set up for War Games. We got a little bit of. Thought everything else was kind of hashtag. What about yourself?
Yeah, uneventful to say the least. Obviously, and I'm glad that there weren't releases this week, as we've been seeing all this year. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a relief when it's an uneventful week in wrestling, because the biggest newsworthy things that come out usually are WWE has released this many stars, WWE released this name, or someone left. And it's obviously unfortunate, but again, like, wrestling's kind of slowly kind of losing its momentum, it's in a lull before it picks up back again, because Royal Rumble season is around, then AEW doesn't have a pay-per-view until February, but they do have some big shows lined up. So right now
Yes.
everyone's building towards that bigger stage that starts off with the new year.
Yeah, I always say that. Do you know what? I think as fans, we've got to understand that there's going to be a bit of a lull. I mean, I think WWE have been in a lull most of the year, which is unfortunate. But AEW have had some really highs, and now we're kind of stabled off a little bit. It's the same with myself in my day job. Is we have that when it comes into December, it starts pittering down a little bit and gets a bit quieter than what it normally would do. In some of the key months and stuff like that. There's me dad there. Hi dad, how are you doing?
Hello, Andy, Scott, how are you doing?
Right guys, so what we'll do is we'll go straight into the weekly news and we'll try and digest some of the stories that we've had. So number 5 on our list is Alexa Bliss needs time to heal. Now, Alexa Bliss has not been seen on WWE TV since her devastating loss by the hand of Charlotte at Extreme Rules. We saw her crying holding the Lily doll, which I can't believe that they ripped up, seeing that it was doing some good. It was doing some good sales from what I heard as well. Now, later reports revealed that Alexa needed some time off due to scheduled sinus surgery. Alexa teased a huge character change in social media as well. Recently, one fan asked her that when she was going to make her return, to which Alexa replied she needs time to heal. It remains to be seen when Alexa makes her big television return. We'll also have to wait and see how she's booked once she comes back. Fans certainly are eager for her comeback. Now, I really like Alexa. I like Alexa. I love the whole goddess character. I thought it was great. I was a fan of what she was doing with Bray Wyatt as well. Now, unfortunately for her, with Bray getting released, I felt like it was kind of a little bit unfair on her, because WWE kept that character going for her and she kind of caught the crossfire. Do you not think, Zane?
Yeah, because Alexa's, as you said, a really good talent. Like, she's a pretty good wrestler in and of itself, and even on the stick, she's pretty good. But with her being attached to the Fiend gimmick, or the Fiend gimmick being her basically inheriting the Fiend gimmick from Bray Wyatt, it didn't work out for her. So we'll definitely be glad to see her back soon as possible, and I hope she's doing fine. So yeah, because the WWE right now, what they're lacking is some main event stars that could be popped into the title picture in the women's division. And Alexa Bliss is just that. It could like reinvigorate that women's division like this. So yeah, I'm excited to see her return to the ring again.
Yeah, what would you do in terms of a character? I mean, me personally, I would go back to the goddess character. I think it worked really well. She was really good on that run with the title and everything else that she'd done. What would you do with her?
Yeah, the goddess character was pretty good, but you can you can really build her up as a face as well, because we haven't really seen her flourish in the babyface role. But if you give her the ball, and obviously she works best as a heel, but have you really properly seen her in best time into the babyface role? Which I feel like that could really work. And with, as I mentioned earlier, that Alexa is out right now, Oscar's out right now. We really need to see the talent, like those main event stars, coming back in and really just flush the entire women's division again with this pool of stardom that we've
Yeah.
been so craving for
Well,
so long.
this is it, and also people were going on about the fact of kind of Charlotte and Becky are the only two stars there. Now you've got Bianca Belair, but let's not forget, going back 2 years ago, well, 3 years ago, pretty much now, or 2-3 years ago, Alexa Bliss was on top, was she not?
Yeah, she definitely was. And I remember at WrestleMania 34, she put over Nia Jax huge. And even like Nia Jax got the "You Deserve It" chance from the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, she did get the "You Deserve It" chance, and I think as well as with that, I think that just shows the testament to how good that Alexa was as a heel, and that she got Nia Jax over. She done probably the impossible by getting it over. Now, Goddess doesn't work as a babyface, and she won't be able to be a heel when she returns. Yeah, I think people are going to miss her, Jim. I totally agree with you on that one. I think that because they will miss her, she will get, she's going to get that pop when she comes back. So, yeah, I totally think you're right. I think the babyface return is probably the way forward. I would like to see Alexa come back with a new character, and I feel like she will smash it because she does, no matter what it is that she does, she seems to come back stronger every single time. Do you not think so?
Yeah, I do. I'm back surprisingly. I hope it's better now. But
Yep.
as I was saying that, Jimmy commented that she wouldn't work well as a babyface, and like I'm not saying that give her the goddess character as a babyface. I'm saying that her as a heel would work. The goddess character would work as a heel, but if we separate her from the goddess character and give her a proper babyface run, that is entirely independent, existing in
Hmm.
a.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean there, mate. Unfortunately, we've lost you a little bit there, mate. I totally get where you're coming from. She has got a very diverse character. She seems to do well no matter what it is that she goes on to. She seems to do really well, and she'll always seem to bounce back. So we'll move on to our next piece of news while Zane sorts out his internet connection, guys. So Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes contracts are expiring soon. Now, many WWE contracts are set to expire, and we already witnessed so many jump to another ship named AEW after the expiration of their contracts with the likes of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. Now, two top AEW stars' contracts are expiring soon. But, so I'd say we've got Danielson and Adam Cole there, but now we've got two AEW top stars' contracts coming soon, but as we say, they're not going to leave the company. Wade Keller reported that both Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes AEW contracts are running out. There's no indication they've re-signed with the company, but losing either of the EVPs would not be intentional. So Zane, welcome back. This is what Wade had to say. There are a lot of people I've talked to in AEW are looking at the contracts and wondering what the deal is going to be next time when their first deal's coming up, and how much leverage they're going to have with WWE or New Japan or heck GCW with their ticket sales these days, or the indie scene as the option to book yourself. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. I've heard that the intent and the hope is that Cody and Kenny and Tony all come to deals. There's not signs that any of them want to leave or are disgruntled to the point they should be able to come to an extension. I don't think there's a story here, to be honest with you. I think it's a big story that it's coming. It's, obviously the contracts are coming up and that's the story, but I don't see anything else coming out of this. I think both will re-sign. Kenny's obviously been leading that company for a long time. Cody's doing his work behind the scenes, and we know one day, Zane, it's going to happen. We are going to get an AEW star that's going to sign with WWE. It will happen eventually. When it happens, who knows, but it will happen. But I don't see Kenny or Cody. I know the Young Bucks have just signed a new contract as well in the last day or so. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this news piece is kind of testament to how uneventful this week in wrestling was, because they're kind of making a story out of Cody and Kenny possibly leaving AEW. Well, like if you were gonna pick like for like a bunch of people that are never gonna leave AEW or are gonna be the last people to leave AEW, then it had to have Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes in it. But since this week is uneventful and our jobs is to make this more interesting, I'm gonna ask you which person is the first, and I think this was gonna be your question as well. Which is gonna be the first AEW talent, not an ex-WWE guy like Jericho or Christian Cage to return to WWE, but an AEW talent to go over to WWE.
Brian Cage.
Yeah, that's cheating. Someone else.
How's that cheating?
Yeah, that's the obvious answer. You know who I'll go for?
Go on.
I'll go for Ricky Starks because I think that he has a boatload of charisma, and I don't understand why he isn't being utilized more. I'm pretty sure that Tony Khan has plans for him in the background, and he's kind of been seen as the unsaid and the fifth pillar of AEW, and he's gone on record to say that he's a homegrown AEW talent, and I really want to see him flourish. Like he gives off those rock vibes, and I feel like in WWE, even though he might be used for the 24/7 championship title scene, he will still give it a shot because in AEW he isn't doing much right now. Another person I might see going to WWE, because this is a tough one, but um, some people might disagree with me, but MJF, honestly,
And
because
I think AJF could be a good one for them. But
yeah,
do you think
what
MJF could tone it down for WWE? Because he'd have to.
yeah, I feel like he has been able to do that because one of the major criticisms that MJF faces these days is, yeah, why am I calling him James? Yeah, Jimmy finally won once we agree at something. But one of the major criticisms that MJF has been getting these past few weeks is that he has been getting cheap heat, and I feel like he doesn't need cheap heat. He gains naturally so much heat that he can make a PG version, and most of his stuff isn't even that TB14 because seen in his recent promo with CM Punk, he just brought up his UFC career and his made subtle references to his run in WWE, and people got it and they booed him as loudly as possible. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure MJF would work in WWE.
Yeah, I think MJF is a really good one. You know, I agree with both you and Jimmy. I think MJF would be massive. Other people that I'd probably like to see over there, I think Brian Cage obviously is a good one. Sammy Guevara eventually. You know, he's quite
Maybe.
close with Jericho, and you know maybe that'd play off, because we know Jericho's going in the Hall of Fame one day, isn't he? 100% going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apart from that, I don't really know who else I'd pull who'd be a standout one for me, because I think that all the rest of them are happy there. I mean, Jungle Boy's never going to go there, is he? Luchasaurus will never go there because they're never going to take him. You know, obviously they'll want to put their own gimmick on him and whatnot.
I think Daniel, even though he isn't an AEW homegrown talent, but I think Daniel Bryan will return to WWE someday. Bryan
Oh,
Danielson.
he will definitely, because he'll go into the Hall of Fame, won't he? Which we already know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think Orange Cassidy has ever fit in WWE at all. Don't think that fit well at all.
Do you reckon
And
do you reckon Pac could go to WWE?
no, they've tried it once before. Pac, for me personally, I like Pac. I think he's not a bad wrestler. He was really, really good wrestler, but I think he thinks of himself as a lot higher than what he actually is.
Oh
Uh,
no. No. I think he has the potential to be, and he in the future he will be an AEW World Champion.
do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he will be because he has wins over Kenny Omega. He has a win over Hangman Adam Page. He has wins over some of the best stars in AEW, and he's like at Double or Nothing. He was a credible opponent for Kenny Omega to defend his AEW World Championship against, albeit with the inclusion of Orange Cassidy. But still, Pac is a tough competitor, and I feel like the belt would look good on him. He just needs a bit of a spark of heat, and he'll be there right there in the
Yeah,
main event.
I just don't see him in the main event. I'm sorry. I know, obviously, a lot of my opinion doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, but I just don't see Pac as a main eventer. I really don't. I think MJF is going to be a main eventer no matter where he goes. Andrade might end up back in WWE one day as well. Obviously, he's still got the connection with Charlotte there, and everyone keeps saying that Charlotte might be going out of the company, but I think Andrade could more likely be the one that goes the opposite way.
Oh, do you think Moxley will go back? Just before we move on to the next piece, do you think
Yes.
Moxley would return to WWE?
Yeah. I think Moxley 100% goes back there one day. I think, especially with the way that he left it with them, which was quite good. And, even his wife said when he was injured, WWE reached out to him. I'd assume they've probably reached out to him again during this period of his troubles that he's had. And I reckon maybe that'll keep that relationship nice and warm where it is. And obviously Seth and Roman are still there, aren't they? Andrade and Charlotte split. They did indeed, Jimmy. Sorry, I did forget about that. What was your thoughts on that one, Zane, about them two splitting up?
Kind of unexpected, to be honest. But see, I'm not in a position to comment on their private lives or their personal matters. So I thought that had they not split, I would have definitely seen Charlotte coming over to AEW, and I still do to some extent. But with that tie existing between Charlotte and Andrade, the chances were obviously higher. So that was again, I'm not going to comment on their personal lives or their personal matters because that is only between them.
No, we wish them both the best, don't we? Okie doke, so number 3 on our weekly news roundup, we have WWE puts Drew McIntyre in recycled storyline. Now, Drew certainly is one of the top baby faces in the company right now.
Who wrote this headline? WWE puts McIntyre in a recycled storyline.
Alex did? What's wrong with it?
No,
Alex, please.
I just really enjoy the headline. That's why I'm saying that. Like, I genuinely enjoyed the headline.
Alex, you're getting some good feedback there from a top wrestling journalist, eh? Wee.
Stop shitting on me.
Sports ski design. Right, can I start now? Is that okay? No, okay. Well, you let me know when I can continue, and then we'll continue. Okay. Is it okay now? Can we continue now?
Yeah.
Thanks, eh?
It's okay now.
Cheers, mate. Okay, though. Now, Drew McIntyre is certainly one of the top baby faces in the company right now. He's a former 2-time WWE champion, as well as McIntyre was the guy who carried the company on his shoulders during the pandemic and the Thunderdome era, and was drafted to Smackdown, and WWE putting him in a good old storyline. According to Uncle Dave, Mr. Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio, WWE have placed Drew McIntyre in a recycled storyline, which will see him getting screwed by authority figures, especially with Brock Lesnar set to return next week on Friday Night SmackDown. Many predicted that he was going to be the next challenger for Reigns' title, but he was absent from the Battle Royal. As we know, he got screwed out of replacing that. So the key is that Brock Lesnar is back next week, and we're doing a new gimmick where the authorities are trying to screw Drew McIntyre, which is an entirely new storyline that WWE have never done before. But what they do, and they repeat the stuff from the past. I mean, that's what we're seeing everywhere. WWE have using the authority figure storyline for well over 2 decades, with notable ones in recent time being Kofi Kingston's storyline against David Bryant in 2019. But we think the storyline will help McIntyre overcome the odds because he still needs his WrestleMania moments. 110% he does. Now, I don't agree with Mr. Meltzer here, because at the end of the day, that is your 101 of wrestling. In my eyes, if you haven't got an absolutely amazing heel and the storyline writes itself, sometimes you need the authority figures. I don't mind authority figures in WWE's aim, because if you don't have them, and AEW found this out a few times as well, is some things don't make sense. So when somebody's giving an interview and goes, okay, let's have a match now. Why? Who said have a match? Why are you just two having a match? Why is there, sometimes there needs to be them authority figures to step in and make somebody defend the title or make us further the story. And what's your thoughts on authority figures, first of all?
Authority figures, yeah. To be honest, I don't mind them. I understand the criticism that is pointed towards them because sometimes the storyline then starts to rely heavily upon them and it takes some of the spotlight away from the
Mm,
stars themselves. And this could be problematic because then again, your authority figures become the main attraction, which is not what's there to be. And I think AW does this perfectly because they just mentioned, oh, Tony Khan said this matchup or Tony Khan did that, or I went and talked to Tony Khan and he did that. And like Tony Khan doesn't have an on-screen presence as such, but the audience acknowledges that he owns the company. He's the
yeah,
one booking the matches. So why not reference him and have things make sense? Now with
yeah.
Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, I don't mind them, but when they come in there and they say they're fining Brock Lesnar $1 million, that's when things start to get a bit out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I mean, I do disagree slightly on the authority figure. I think the authority figure can be used if it's used correctly. It can be a really good thing. Like, Wrestlmania, for instance, with Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
We would never have got there without Triple H and Stephanie and the authority at that specific moment. Now, did they probably overstay their welcome after that? Potentially, yeah. But, I don't think it would have meant as much or been as much as a moment as what it was if we wouldn't have had them there. It's like saying without McMahon, you don't have Austin.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Arguably one of the greatest rivalries of all time,
yeah.
McMahon versus Austin.
Yeah, and so I don't agree with Meltzer on that point. I think it's how long has it been since we've had the authority or an authority figure? I know we've got Deville and Pierce who are building up some kind of something in the background there, but as you say, they're just they're not prominent in any storylines. But it's been quite a while since we've had that authority figure, and maybe it's time to bring back a McMahon or bring back something to kind of build that up again. And Drew needs it. Drew McIntyre needs somebody like that.
Here comes the money. It's Shane McMahon versus Drew McIntyre Royal Rumble, like scaffolding match or something.
But the thing is, you don't even have to have them have a match. Do you know what I mean? Bring in the authority, because don't forget as well, when we had the authority last time, Seth Rollins, let's not forget, really benefited from that as well. He massively benefited from the authority.
Alright, let's say there's an authority type established, a faction that's formed, right? Which star do you see could be the in-ring guy that kind of represents the authority and faces the other guys?
Okay, at the moment,
Yeah.
good question. Do you know who'd be cool to do it for? Riddle. Totally out.
Being an authority figure.
Because we've seen this storyline build with him, yeah, where he's kind of Randy and all this, and then we've seen him dress up as Randy Orton himself, and he's very, people can influence him very easily by what his character is getting portrayed as. So if you had somebody like an authority figure come in and they really influenced him, he turned his back on Randy, and they, the fans would be going crazy. They'd be like, they're manipulating him, they're getting him to do everything for us. And I don't know, maybe that's just me. I think,
Who I think could be a good authority figure, I think Bobby Lashley. I can definitely see Lashley being in that role.
I think it'd be wasted on him. That's right. Shout out my boy Riddle, well and Jimmy. No, I think with Bobby it'd be wasted on him. Bobby's already got the whole hair business stuff going on, so for me to get this story up and running and going, you'd need somebody that really come inside the field, like let's not forget when we had the whole Seth Rollins things. Nobody, it just come from nowhere. Boom! It was perfect.
Everyone thought Ambrose was going to turn, so yeah, it was pretty good. Just going off slightly on a tangent here. Do you think the Shield split up a bit too early?
Yes, I do. But I don't know, because they've gone on to have good careers. I think that Roman was left on his own too soon, potentially. More than the Shield splitting up, I think Roman was the one that suffered the most. I think Ambrose was ready to do his own thing. I thought Seth Rollins was, but I thought Roman really suffered because of the split, the Shield split. And, you know, what we're seeing of Roman now is great, and no, that's awesome. But back then it was a little bit different. But yeah, I think I don't know. It's a hard question to ask, because if you ask Dean Ambrose or Seth Rollins, they probably tell you that the Shield probably split up at the right time. But Roman Reigns, if you look at his path up until the last 18 months, it probably was too soon for them to split up for him.
Yeah, understandable.
But I just, as I say, I don't agree with the whole not having any kind of authority figure. I think if
sorry, go ahead.
I think it's just like anything in wrestling. If it's done correctly, it can be a massive thing. And, you know, let's not forget, back when they had the last authority figure, we got Seth Rollins out of it and Daniel Bryan, who are two sure-worthy Hall of Famers in the future. So,
yeah, but you know who could be a perfect feud against an authority figure? Sami Zayn, the conspiracy theorist. I'd love to see him. I just, because he could be a babyface being a conspiracy theorist. Can you imagine, like, kind of a tweener? But it would be interesting to see him. And talking about him, he's the guy who won the Battle Royal.
He is
taking on Roman Reigns. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I feel like also Drew McIntyre, if he was to go into a program with Roman now or somebody else and win the title, I don't think it'd mean that much. I think it'd be a bit where, you know, people already feel sorry for Drew from outside of wrestling, because he carried the whole company through the pandemic. He didn't really get a title pop. He didn't win the title in front of the crowd. So, you know, I'm totally behind this whole authority trying to screw Drew and make it to the, you know, so he climbs back to that mountain and gets that win. You know, I'd love Drew McIntyre to be the one to take the belt off Roman. I really would.
Yeah, because at the moment, and initially I thought that obviously there's no one on the roster who could beat Roman, but that seems to be a real issue. Because are we going to wait for another year or maybe a year and a half for The Rock to return, and even then to have a really good feud? Because with Roman with the title, you're kind of wasting the title at this point. His run is getting kind of bland when you know that match after match, he's the one who's going to win. So
see, I like it. I like his title run at the moment. I think it's really dominant, and I'm liking the reason for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I have to kind of disagree. Like, obviously you can like it, but I feel like that after a certain point, after the Brock Lesnar match, there isn't much more left to do with it, apart from him losing the belt now. And hopefully, if Drew McIntyre gets that heat he got early 2020 when he won the Rumble, he gets that heat back again. I'd love to see him get that WrestleMania main event and beat Roman Reigns to capture the title in front of fans this time.
Would you like it if the authority figure that's already screwing Roman in the background now, screwing Drew in the background and stopped him getting into that battle royal, if it turns out to be Paul Heyman?
Yeah, that would make sense, and we know WWE doesn't like that.
No. But for me, that'd be one where it'd be like, okay, you know, you've got my attention, we're off to the races.
Yeah, but who I think is screwing with him in the background?
Go on.
It says Eddie Kingston, because he's gonna be the one.
Shut the fuck up! I knew we were gonna. So right, here we go. Thanks, Jim. At least you're still here in presence and giving us some good feedback instead of me having to listen to this idiot. Been a very long time since we had the dominant champ like Roman. It really has, Jimmy, and I'm not against that. It's just when you've got such a dominant champion, eventually, so you know, one thing with Hogan was a very dominant champion, but there always seemed to be some kind of real threat to his championship reign, where at the moment it doesn't seem like we've got, you know, Zayn's quite right in what he's saying is we haven't got any credible threats to him. But I would like to see Lesnar, Reigns versus McIntyre at WrestleMania, maybe after a long build up and a lot of spills and whatnot along the way. I think Drew unfortunately got screwed with the title reign, and we need to rebuild him again now. and getting back to where you care about and wanting to win that title. And I feel like because Drew's such a big monster character, if they book this correctly and keep screwing him and stopping him fighting Roman, and then eventually he gets in the ring with Roman and proves that he's the better man, boom, we're away. And also, you know, going into next year's hopefully feuds with The Rock, the belt doesn't really need to be in the picture for Rock Roman, so it's a good way to get it off him and go into, you know, you could even have The Rock come in at the end and screw him or whatever, you know what I mean. Well, anyway, on to the next one. So, talking about WrestleMania matches, I still think that we're going to get Lesnar versus Reigns at day one pay-per-view. Now, WWE apparently are looking at Lashley versus Lesnar for WrestleMania. So apparently it's been it's a match that fans have said for a long time that they want to see. Both have credible wrestling careers and mixed martial arts backgrounds, and the rumours are circulating that we're going to see these two behemoths fighting when the grander stage of them all rolls round next year. The only sad thing is that it didn't happen when Paul Heyman was with MVP. Now, WWE recently posted several behind-the-scenes photos from Survivor Series on their website. On those photos, we see Paul Heyman and MVP having a conversation while behind the announce table. Heyman took to his Instagram stories and hinted at conspiring with MVP regarding a future plan of sorts. MVP would also share this story on Instagram. Now, there's been talk of Heyman is with Universal Champion Roman Reigns, and currently Reigns is feuding with Lesnar, so Heyman will help from MVP, who manages Bobby Lashley, and Lashley will cost Lesnar the title shot at the Royal Rumble. This will set up a WrestleMania match between Lesnar and Lashley. Writes itself, really, doesn't it, Sam? Hello? Are you there? Are you speaking?
Yeah, I am. I kind of am. I kind of am still there. I was like, because we're in WrestleMania season, right? It's going to be WrestleMania season in a couple of months. In a few months, it's the road to WrestleMania starts, and they're going to pull out all the big guns, right? We're going to have let's assume for a moment that this is the match we're going to get at WrestleMania, right? You have Lesnar versus Lashley, possibly Reigns versus Drew if Lesnar isn't facing Reigns. Big E, what's then going to happen to Big E? I feel like Big E would then face Goldberg because he wants that big meaty men slapping meat match, and then you have all the top stars there. But you have to consider that Lesnar versus Lashley is a dream match, and it has been building for a while. But is Lashley that hot right now to the point where he can prove to be a threat to Lesnar, or do they need to feed him some wins? Because if he we have we're like 4 months away from WrestleMania now, 4 or 5 months away, right? If Lashley runs through some stars on Raw, like some like verified stars, like you have Rey Mysterio over there, and you have kind of Kevin Owens who might be on his way out. If Lashley runs through them and absolutely dominates them like he was on a run prior to when he faced Drew McIntyre, I think we can then have a really proper marquee match between Lashley and Lesnar. But right now, I don't think he's that hot.
Do you need that? So, if Jimmy, perfect, exactly what I was going to say. If Lashley attacks Brock, he instantly gets hot again. So, if you've got them, I don't think that match is going to take place at Royal Rumble. I think the Lesnar-Roman Reigns match will take place at day one, I believe. Because it seems like Nick Khan's putting a lot into this and he's really pushing this pay-per-view. So I see that going ahead at day one. But as Jimmy's quite rightly said, even if Bobby Lashley has been doing nothing, because not to not forget his title run, before the Hurt Business got through together, he was doing it zilch, and he was he was in that stupid storyline with Lana, and there was nothing good about him. He got in the Hurt Business, boom, instant heat, instant. Come the almighty bang. WWE can do that they can spin it in a second and get that kind of heat for somebody if they really want to. But as Jimmy quite rightly says, if Lashley comes out and costs Brock the title, lets Roman Reigns wins it, then no matter, it doesn't need to have Lashley squash everybody. I mean, you can do that on the way to WrestleMania, by all means, to make it more credible and whatever else, but the minute he interferes and costs Brock Lesnar a match, that enough for that feud for me. It just sets it red hot there and then. Because then Lesnar's just like, you know, revenge.
Yeah,
it's all about the
makes sense
revenge.
Because if Heyman's conspiring with MVP as seen as in the Instagram stories, right? It's going to be hard to think that, like, because Heyman has to pick between two of his favorite sons, Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and even at Crown Jewel, that was left quite a bit open-ended, because we didn't know who he was referring to when he threw the title and he said, just do it, and it's kind of because Lashley can't face Reigns right now, kind of partly because of the brand split, right? And also because Lesnar happens to be a free agent and he has 8 matches under his belt. And if you're gonna get those 8 matches, I assume that 2 of them are going to be against Roman Reigns, 1 against Lashley, 1 has to be against Lashley, right? And I feel like another one of them would have to be against Edge, because that's kind of a dream match that isn't talked about as much. But while referring to the topic right here in between Lesnar and Lashley, I have to agree with you again. Like I need to go back on with my own terms, and I have to admit that I was wrong. You don't need to give him squash match wins. Attacking Lesnar, now that I realize, is sufficient enough for him to get the heat.
Yeah. Jimmy's just put on the chat there as well. Bobby attacking Lesnar sends Brock to Raw, and then Paul doesn't have to pick sides. Do you know, WWE, when they get something right, Jim and Zane, they get it really right. You know, could this all be part of this big thing of, you know, the Drew McIntyre storyline that we've just been talking about, the authority figures screwing him out of it, the way that they released the pictures onto WWE.com of Paul Heyman and MVP talking, and then it all comes together of, well, why did Bobby Lashley attack Lesnar? What does Paul Heyman give to MVP to make him attack Lesnar? Well, it could be that Lesnar gets a title shot at Big E and wins the title back, or it could be a matter of, well, Paul Heyman's the authority that we didn't know about in the background, and it all comes together in this big thing of the whole Drew storyline for the lead up to WrestleMania for them. Then on this other side, and the other layer, we've got the whole Lesnar Bobby Lashley story where Heyman screwed Lesnar and he's got the power to send, you know, to get MVP to send on the Hurt Business, and then you could have Paul Heyman as the authority figure advising the tribal chief on Smackdown. He's got his representatives in the Hurt Business on Raw, and it's all coming together nicely. Or we could have another "It's me, Austin. It was me all along," and it was kind of somebody twiddling the both of them in the background. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Somebody who's over Reigns and over over Lesnar, over Heyman and over MVP. You know, we don't know, do we?
It's like kind of difficult for me to understand the duality of WWE. On one side, they're doing something very good that's long term, and on the other side, there's Vince McMahon who shows up with an egg one day and decides that there's going to be storylines surrounding it. Like, how can it be like 2 polarly opposite things that are happening on the same product that is put out by the same company? It's insane.
The thing is, obviously, The Rock's been in touch, and in preparation for this Hollywood match and that, he's asked, can you please really promote my film? And Vince McMahon's gone, the egg.
Is this the best they could have done to promote his film?
Okay.
And I was like, where did the egg come from? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, what was worse, the egg or the zombies?
You know what? Honestly, I feel like zombies got a lot of shit online they didn't deserve. I understood. I hated it.
Did you really? See, I just kept thinking in my head, at least the egg got over more than the zombies. Right.
The zombies kind of made sense. Like, no, they didn't make sense. But Vince McMahon coming out with an egg, and he goes $100 million and acting and everything. Like, it was a running theme. Like, the zombies showed up only for 1 match. So,
well, the thing is, Jimmy. By the way, Jimmy agrees with me. She said zombies by a mile. Too right, Jim. And also, what I'm going to say is, everybody is always having a go at WWE for not sticking to a storyline or not making a storyline progress, right? But at the end of the day, the Egg made it all the way from Survivor Series and halfway through Raw. Continuous storylines. What do people... You know when you don't get them, they give you them, and you're still not happy.
Of all the things that they could have continued, it was the fucking Egg.
But they stay. Hey, we only get what we're given. Harold, how we doing, mate? You keep rocking yourself, buddy. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon, mate, when you get your laptop sorted out. Okie doke. So to continue with our tribal chief, Roman Reigns teases leaving WWE. Now Roman, it's been a slow week, it really has. But so Roman Reigns is the topmost guy in the WWE right now. He is the head of the table after all, and he's having a pretty amazing run as Universal Champion with 453 days in counting. But rumours started circulating after he cut a promo during this week's episode of Friday Night Smackdown. It's pretty crazy discussion, but his promo was a mysterious one, especially when you're looking specifically at what he said. If you blinked, you missed it. But as it turns out, the IWC is very, very sharp and catches every little individual thing and spins it. Now, he did on WWE's Twitter reposted the moment, although they didn't include the whole statement as it was worded in their tweet. I am your tribal chief. I am the greatest of all time, and my days are done. When my days are done around here, which could be sooner rather than later, the whole world will acknowledge me. There are certainly those who believe this is just another way to get heat for Reigns and the product. It must be stated that he is leaving very possible soon, though. He has left to work on movies before Hobbs and Shaw. He worked with The Rock, something that he has the charisma very much for, just like his cousin Dwayne Johnson. Roman's really, really good. I like his whole facial expressions. I like the thing. He could go into acting. What's your thoughts on this one?
He could definitely go into acting, and I feel like after he drops the belt, which I think is that it's going to be at WrestleMania this year. Now that's a big assumption, but let's say if he drops the title this year at WrestleMania, this coming WrestleMania, I think he deserves a break. Like, Kenny deserved a break, Roman deserves a break, maybe he'll go into acting or so. But I don't see him leaving WWE. I don't see him leaving WWE until his wheels fall off. Because
I don't think he's going to get to the levels of The Rock. I don't think so. Do you?
No.
In Hollywood sense.
And here's the thing, and I'm going to tie this into a bigger argument that people often argue: why don't we have as big stars as The Rock now, or Stone Cold Steve Austin, or even Hulk Hogan? I think it's the fact that the illusion of wrestling has lifted. The curtain has been peeled back so much that there isn't as much attraction and appeal to the product to a casual viewer. But for the hardcore fans, and I'm using this term hardcore very interchangeably and loosely, for people who watch wrestling very regularly and are fans of the product, have grown even more invested into it with the curtain being lifted up. But for the casual audience, and that is where talent leaks from wrestling over to other products as well, right? Roman Reigns can make movies, right? And he can be good at acting, but he isn't going to hit that big levels of stardom remaining solely in wrestling as much as The Rock did or Stone Cold Steve Austin did. But with his facial expressions, I feel like from wrestlers, I think Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, and this is going to take you by surprise, is the third one who's pretty good, I think, at acting, is Hangman Adam Page. These three guys can make a career in acting.
I think Sami Zayn could as well if he was given the right roles. But just to go back to my original question, do you see The Rock Reigns becoming as big as The Rock in Hollywood?
No,
I don't see that. I think he could be a Cena. I think he could, potentially do what Cena does, which is go and do his movies, pop back to WWE, go and do movies again, whatnot. I could see that, but I don't see him ever becoming the big superstar that The Rock is, unfortunately. I think also Eddie Kingston has better chance to make it.
Jokes aside, he does.
Yeah, maybe he can make it on Hollywood Boulevard with a cap out and get some money.
Yeah, he's gonna be your champion, and you're gonna acknowledge him one day.
Definitely not. But no, the other thing, just to give this a bit of a flip side of the story, let's not forget Roman was very ill. Going back 2 years ago now, unfortunately he had a relapse into his cancer, and that all come back. So maybe it's just him being realistic in the fact of he's beat it again, but obviously it come back a second time. You never know when it's if it's going to come back again. We all hope that doesn't happen to him. But let's flip this on the head and look at it from the fact of it might be a throwaway comment or nothing, but it could be the fact that he never knows how long he's going to be well for.
Yeah, I hope he's fine. I hope he's doing fine, and this really can be an issue, and of course he realizes that his illness can come back, and he's immunocompromised and with COVID and stuff. But I generally hope he doesn't. But his days could be very well shortened, and he might not. With his condition right now, obviously it can come back, as I've mentioned quite a few times by this point. But I think he's being realistic. But I don't see him retiring any sooner, because he's really good at this, and you can see the guy loves this. The guy loves wrestling. He does this. He lives, breathes, and even though he doesn't show it, and I think that's kind of goes to show his brilliance of investing in the character, because he's such a good heel that with other heels even with other wrestlers you can see their passion coming out, but he's so good at it that he doesn't even show a hint of his true personality within that character, which I think is really amazing, and it just goes to show his brilliance.
Yeah, and I also think with The Rock, The Rock can, as we've seen, he can play the tough guy, bad guy in Hollywood. He can play the tooth fairy. He's got a lot of variety in what he can actually do. I don't think Roman's got that kind of scope, the same kind of scope that he has, but I do think there's definitely some kinds of Hollywood future for him. I say at the moment, the best work Roman speaks with his face so well, if that makes sense. He can say a big, massive message with just the flick of his face or the scrunch of his eyes or whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As I say,
the shock on his face when Cena returned at Money in the Bank. That was honestly one of my favorite reactions to any return, because it wasn't like an exaggerated one with face open. It was of like someone who's genuinely concerned what's happening, with mix of surprise and concern. That's a very hard face to pull off, to be honest.
Yeah, Reigns could be a good villain, Alex. You're quite right. Maybe even a Bond villain.
Yeah, maybe even a Marvel superhero villain. Yeah. I can see him.
So what's he saying? Jimmy's saying, where's the talk on Sami Zayn being the man to beat Roman Reigns? Sorry, Jim, it's not going to happen.
No, I'm going to agree with him. I would really love for Sami Zayn to beat Roman Reigns, and they can, he has the potential, and they can build him up, because he has that energy.
100%.
Whatever he's doing right now. I mentioned in an early stream as well. After Roman Reigns, he has been consistently the best thing going on SmackDown for the past year or so, and he's just an amazing guy. His NXT run is a testament to how good of a babyface he can be. Just give him a little spark, and he'll go to climb mountains higher than Everest. He's an amazing guy.
I just can't see him getting there, unfortunately. I really do.
That's because you're a hater, Andy.
Oh, I love Sami Zayn. But I just can't see. I'll say there we might see Hardy versus Zayn. Versus Reigns. I think Zayn's going to get screwed out of it somehow. To further his, whether we get a win with him winning something down the line, maybe, I don't know, but I think he's definitely going to get screwed out of it some way. We could see Hardy versus Reigns. You're quite right, Alex. I think that's probably a Royal Rumble match, if not day one, maybe.
I think it's a SmackDown match at best.
Just don't seem to put Roman Reigns on there. But here's a good point for you, right? And this is what frustrates the hell out of me with WWE at present. How long was Roman Reigns' entrance on SmackDown Friday night?
You want me to guess?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. 5 minutes.
6 minutes 40.
No.
You know,
I went with the longest I could imagine, and even talking
the whole segment with him in the ring and Kayla and everything else was like 24 minutes of the show, of the whole show.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I'm going to draw a comparison between WWE and AEW right now. Like, I can tell you that I'm not a fan of, I'm not a exclusive fan. I enjoy good wrestling, and I love both WWE and AEW. I hate them for their weaknesses. I love them for their strengths. But here's the thing. Last week on Dynamite, MJF and CM Punk, they sat they had quite like an 18-20 minute promo battle, and I didn't feel any of it. It just flew by. With Roman Reigns, I felt each and every one of those minutes. Each and every second.
Yeah,
so
that's the problem, isn't it? It's just too long, and it's taken away from the old product. I mean, you know, as you said, if MJF and CM Punk, when it means something like that, that's absolutely fine. But when it's just done for the sake of doing it, then it's just like, ugh. Just before we go, then before we wrap it up, Sami Zayn, do you see him getting the match?
No.
No, me neither.
It's proud of it.
I think the way he's saying ways he got screwed out of the one on Monday Night Raw, I see that happening the same. But I hope we're, you know, with the whole what happened with Vincent and Austin Aries and what happens with whatever goes on this side, I just hope it all leads to something with him. You know, where we see him, especially like the change in the music was the biggest mistake they've made, but hopefully it might be again we see something different coming out of the back of it.
Yeah. Do you think this conspiracy thing is leading to an end, leading to some point?
I hope so. I really do. I really hope it is. And I hope it's something big for him. But I don't know. At the moment, it's
there actually is a conspiracy against him. I really hope it does turn out, and he's like, "See, I was right all along," and that's going to be amazing because then the fans are confused who to cheer for.
Yeah,
but
I'd be chuffed to bits because if that happened, then it's like, okay, well, you know, we're getting somewhere with them now. Where if this never ends anywhere, then it just proves that WWE just don't have no finishing power on anything anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's just all hot shot booking, which is not, you know, it's not right. It's not right at all. Every now and again they get something right, and hopefully they'll just keep on building little things. Do you know what? I don't mind if they're doing this kind of one-off booking stuff, as long as there's a couple of storylines boiling in the background. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, if you've got like 2 or 3 storylines that are just twiddling along, and then next minute it's okay, here's bloody Angel versus Angel Garza versus Nakamura, whatever. Do you know, just as a random. What's that?
When you said Angle, I was like, oh, Kurt Angle.
No, Angel Garza versus, like, you know, Ricky Boogs. Okay, that's fine. That's a throwaway match. There's no problem because this is what I'm interested in. And sometimes you do need that bit of let up in between storylines, but you've got to have fundamentals in a storyline, and you've got to have something going on in between as well.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like, what WWE doesn't do good is, and why I enjoyed Omega's reign so far, even though there were a lot of weak matches, is because lower on the card there was good stuff. And with Roman Reigns mainly, it has been happened that he has been the focus of every pay-per-view from the Smackdown side. And on the undercard, there isn't much there's left to watch or be invested in.
Yeah. Well. Right, guys, that was another week in wrestling. Thank you for joining me and my good old pal Zane for our weekly chat. Make sure you do hit the like button for us, guys, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for a lot of different content that we have coming up. We've got some really good interviews coming up, and we're obviously Quiz Buddies will start again soon as well. And also make sure you go over to www.wrestlebuddy.com for all your latest wrestling news. And also, guys, we want to hear from you as well, so if there's anything that you want to see from us, if there's any kind of, you know, something that you like, something that you don't, get in touch with us, leave us some comments, let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of. If you want to see more top 10 lists, top 5 lists, you want to see more interviews, you want to see more WrestleBuddy Q&A sessions, anything like that, let us know in the comments. But until next week, Zane, thank you very much, my man.
Thank you for hosting, I guess, whatever it was.
Thank you guys, and we will catch you again next week. Till then, take care, WrestleBuddies.
Goodbye.